And let's talk more about what has been an eventful week in Congress with our friend Mica Soellner from Punchbowl News, up late with me tonight here on the Final Five. I feel like, Mica, this is kind of like a day where you can sit back because all the heavy lifting, at least for this, is over and done with.
Yes, we finally saw, I think, the months-long battle over Ukraine aid and foreign aid come to an end this week with the Senate passage of the foreign aid bill passed over the weekend by the House and signed into law today by President Biden. So this was a long fight on the Hill, and it's finally come to a close.
It wasn't a big surprise in the end seeing the margin in the Senate. There were some Republicans who seemed to have changed course on this, but by and large, I mean, if you're looking for something called bipartisan, this truly would be one of those bills.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it shows the split too between the Senate and House Republicans in terms of the growing faction of the GOP that were really resistant to giving more funding to Ukraine. I think a lot of that was more in the House. But I think this is a win for more of moderate, more establishment types. Obviously, Leader McConnell is taking victory laps, and obviously Chuck Schumer is very happy too. And those two worked very closely together to get this across the finish line. So it is a rare moment of bipartisanship for sure.
You had a lot of Republicans like Mike Lee of Utah who very vehemently against this measure and was hoping that maybe they could corral enough Republicans to block it from passing. And we've heard, especially on the House side as well, the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene who have said, no, they didn't want to see more funding out there. Does this give us any signal as to where the power from that flank of the party stands at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, we see Senator Lee all the time on the House side. He's always talking to House Freedom Caucus members who are going to be the most vocal against aiding Ukraine because they fall kind of more into President Trump's America First type ideology, and some critics would call it an isolationist a kind of policy. But I think that their power is strong into when it comes to holding leadership to its feet to the fire. But I do think that overall, I think that they really haven't had many successes.
How does that tie in with what we're seeing in the House side with the motion to vacate, at least something that Green has put forth? Thomas Massey says he's on board with that movement right now, but it's not privileged, so there's really no pressing need to hold a vote on this. Will we see a vote on this?
Yeah, I think it's unclear. I mean, I think, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been really clear that this is more of just kind of a warning for Johnson rather than an actual pink slip. I think those were almost her exact words on this. But, she really likes to have the power of holding this over him. I think the majority of the conference does not want to have another speaker fight this year after the 3-week slog that we saw last year. But I will add she is slowly growing in support. We did see one more representative sign on last week to the motion to vacate. That's Paul Gosar of Arizona.
So that's three. You still have and Marjorie Taylor Greene is not, I guess, for all intents and purposes, not part of the Freedom Caucus anymore. I know that there was a lot of acrimony around that, but there was also a lot of acrimony from within the party where you had people, I believe, the Derek Van Ordens of the world who were unhappy with the Bob Goods of the world. Yep. But this is over, and at least this argument, this debate is over and done with. We don't have any government funding battles down the pipeline. At least they're not kicking the can down the road, which is what we saw Democrats and Republicans do time and time again. So what's the focus going to be on now? Is it an election year mindset, or are there other matters of the people's business that Congress has to address at this point?
Yeah, that's right. I think most of the big fights are pretty much done, legislatively speaking. But I do think that this is going to turn into a bloodbath on the campaign trail. And we're seeing infighting happen. We're seeing it's primary season. We're seeing House Republicans go after other Republicans, sitting incumbents. We're seeing big fights down in Texas for Tony Gonzalez, who's been very vocal against members of the Freedom Caucus and conservatives. And then, in respect, I think, those members are now supporting his challenger if they weren't already. We're seeing this happen in Virginia with the Freedom Caucus chair, Bob Good. So some of these primaries are going to be really crazy to watch as well.
You mentioned Tony Gonzalez. He got the endorsement of Greg Abbott, which clearly is somebody who, on the right flank of the Republican Party, is somebody who's checked many of the right boxes when it comes to things like immigration. So they are getting some support, even if they're standing against the Freedom Caucus.
Yeah, that race is definitely interesting. I mean, Gonzalez has the backing of leadership. He has far outraced his challenger. I think it's more just shows kind of the frustrations and the tensions in the party right now. If you're looking at whose side that everyone is on in that particular runoff.
Mica Soellner from Punchbowl News. Always great to see you again, Mica. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Final Five is back after this.